ready.
Welcome to another episode of Buff in the Rough. Today we're going to talk to Jacob Koons about playing linebacker at Ohio University, what it takes to win a world championship in rabbit hunting, why is he a Plott Hound man, and a whole lot more. Help me welcome Jacob Koons to the program. Well, hey Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, I can't complain. I really appreciate you coming on with us today and to talk to us a little bit about beagling, and then maybe a little, if you have time, I'd love to talk to you about Plott Hounds too. But Jacob, for those that maybe don't know you, could you just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself? And that can be the hunting stuff. It can be maybe how you got into hunting, but it could be your other hobbies or interests, or just really just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this. But a little bit about me. I'm from a little town in southeastern Ohio called Gloucester. My dad, Jeff Koons, since he was young, probably middle school, he's always had a coon dog and some rabbit dogs. So I was raised around the dogs, especially competition hunting. He had me in youth hunts, about fourth grade. Then I was bit by the bug, and I've been chasing a dog ever since. But I'm still in Gloucester. I actually live in the farm right next door to where I grew up, where my parents still live. So,
wow.
Not a whole lot has changed. Work and things get busier, but we're still farming. We raise cattle, and I try to chase beagles and coon dogs both as much as time allows me.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So what kind of cattle? Is it are you dairy or beef, or what you got?
Beef cattle, mainly Angus. We've slowly grown over the years. At first, probably just more of a hobby than anything, but we sell quite a bit of beef now, and placement heifers and steers. So that takes up more and more time. But that's what I think everyone in the family. I have two brothers, one just 15 months younger than I am, one that's 6 years younger than I am, and we all share a lot of the same interests. And cattle's one thing that we all enjoy, and that and the hunting also.
Mm-hmm. So what's beef cattle prices going for? Because I hear they're doing really well right now.
Oh, they're high right now. Feeder cattle, $3 is nothing to blink at right now. Even just
oh my God, three bucks.
18 months ago, I've been tickled for $1.35. So it's hard to keep a steer to finish them and sell beef just because live weight is so high right now.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I tell you, boy, have times changed. It hadn't been that long ago. I used to dabble a little bit in some beef cattle myself, and I sold my first couple steers, one for like 80 cents and one for 85, mm-hmm. and I was thrilled. I thought that was fantastic at the time.
Yeah, fat cattle. Finished fat cattle at 1,600 pounds or $2 a pound right now. It's just out of sight.
Oh my goodness! Well, times are good. Hey, it's that beef cattle stuff's a roller coaster ride though. Sometimes yeah,
the farmers have been waiting a lifetime for good prices, so hopefully some of them can capitalize on it while they can.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm very happy for you. So let me ask you another question. So I know you're a very competitive guy, and you mentioned that you've been competing and loving the competition side since you were a very young guy. Were you in competitive sports or anything? Did you do anything like that?
Yeah, so I played football and basketball and baseball, in little league. In high school, I played football and basketball. We went to state title my senior year in football. Unfortunately, got beat. I was district and conference player of the year 2 years, and I was state player of the year my senior year. And then I ended up playing at Ohio University football for 4 years at linebacker. So I've always had some sort of competition, and of course, even back then, I was hunting in the night hunts, and the Beagle hunts didn't really start until I was a junior in high school. But there's always been some sort of competition in my life.
Wow, that's a big deal. I mean, to play linebacker at the collegiate level, that's a big deal. So I bet that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Got to play at a lot of neat stadiums and some very cool experiences, and met a lot of good people along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That actually led into I coached high school football for 5 years after I graduated OU, and then finally work and all the other things took up too much of my time. I couldn't sacrifice any to coach anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been I think 3 years since I've coached now.
Mm-hmm. Do you miss it?
Oh yeah, I mean I love football. I
Mm-hmm.
love football, but I also love farming and hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And that if I'm going to do something, I like to be all in. And I got to a point there where something had to give, and it was coaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you. I think your kennel name is Hyde Holler. So where did that come from?
So I grew up on a dead end road named Hyde Lane, and down. Everyone hears that I'm in Ohio, and a lot of coon hunters, think of corn and a high coon population and
Mm-hmm.
farm ground. But where I'm at, I'm only an hour from Parkersburg, West Virginia. So I'm in big hills. Some people that used to like there might call this mountains, but they're hills to us.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of hollers. And me and my buddy Chris Humphrey in high school running, and like I said, we had Beagles when I was younger. My dad did. Then we didn't for a while. My great uncle Buck gave me a young female named Holly, and she was a rabbit dog. We killed a lot of rabbits over her, and then now everything we're hunting goes back to her. 2 or 3, 4 generations now.
Mm-hmm.
But we were trying to come up. We wanted a UKC register, and we were trying to come up with a name. And we were around Beagles probably midnight one night, and I looked down at my Garmin, and it was Hyde Fork was a creek in the big holler behind my parents. And we somehow ended up settling on Hyde Holler Holly. And it's been that way the last, it's probably been 12 years now.
Outstanding. That's a good story. Well, you've been doing this for a while, and you've been very successful, and we'll get into some of that a little bit later. But could you tell us a little bit about your rabbit hunting career? Maybe some of the biggest ups and downs you've had, or big wins, or maybe even some of those tough losses. Any proud moments that really stick out, or crazy things that you've seen out on a cast? Just what are some of the more interesting things that have happened to you over the years while you've been out on these hunts?
Yeah, so I was always involved in the night hunts, and then my junior year, that Holly female had started with. We had bred her twice and had some nice young dogs, and we thought, we were just gun hunters, but we thought we could maybe compete with them. And we had some local people here, Rick L, Kenny Urian, mentioned that the UKC hunts to us, so we went and actually just spectated I think it was the High State Championship, which is Morgan County here, that's where it used to be, just 30 minutes from the house. We went and spectated it, and, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty similar to how, a night hunt would go with the hound handler format.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple weeks later, they had another hunt over there, went over, and I actually got beat. And Chris Humphrey won his cast, made the Final Four, and won the whole hunt. And that just stoked the fire for us, and we've been in it ever since. But everything that we've done, stems back to Holly. And that's probably one of what I'm most proud of. She was just a solid rabbit dog, didn't do anything wrong, tight mouth, upper medium speed, but not what I would call fast. And I met some good people along the way. Brian Mead, when he was doing all that winning, and I think he'd still be doing all that winning if he was still coming to the hunts, but he's been busy with high school age kids now.
Mm-hmm.
So I bred a female to his driller dog, bred a female and that's where Clyde came from, and bred a female to Vicky Bass's Bones dog, which is where Soul Collector came from, and then Mike Glomsky out in Indiana. he had to Branco's Red River Runner. And in high school, I watched that dog on YouTube every chance I could in computer class. And finally went out there and bred a female to him. Didn't have puffs, but when she didn't take Matt was nice enough to give us a shot at a puppy he had sitting out there. And that was our hide hauler Red Runner again, who, ended up winning the World Hunt in 21. So, and since then, all those little crosses I just talked about is what everything goes back to one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So everything's pretty intertwined, and same thing with the Coon Hounds. I enjoy the history and the genetic part of it as much as I do anything. Mm-hmm. That's what keeps me going, and will probably always have me in it somehow.
Mm-hmm. Well, who are some of the people that have influenced you the most on this Beagle side? I've heard you mention some people that have helped you along the way and that you ran across early on. But are there one or two people that really were go-to guys for you when you were getting started on the competition Beagle side of the business?
So, I mean, my dad being, I do a lot of the things the same in the Beagles that I did the Coon Dogs, but mm-hmm. the Beagles have also taught me some things that I've changed on how I tune a dog up. Coon hunting just the way I tune a Beagle up now. My dad, he always used to say he couldn't hunt one too much, and I'm that way. If I'm getting one ready for a hunt, I hunt, mm-hmm. and I think you have to be that way to be successful. And all those guys in the big coon hunts or the guys who are winning the Beagle hunts, I think they'd all agree. The guys who are winning are the guys who are putting the work in during the week, mm-hmm. and it never stops. I mean, it's not just a week before; it's the whole year leading up to it. Mm-hmm. But Brian Mead, with the Outback Beagles, we had drew out a couple times. We had talked, bred my old Grand Gracie female to his Outback driller. And I just liked how Mead conducts himself and how he works, how he handles a dog. He takes mm-hmm. it serious. When he has a dog at a hunt, it. Mead's not somebody that's going to talk about it, but if he's packing a dog, it's a good one. And I've learned a lot from that. And probably him and my dad more than anybody. Those were the guys winning when I first got in. So that's kind of what I followed.
Well, what are some of the best? I mean, if you've had a world champion dog, I imagine this is going to be one that you come back at me with. But what are some of the best hounds that you've personally owned?
It's Runner, who won the World 21. He was just so consistent. For years he was consistent. He had placed 10th of the world at like 4 years old, and he ended up winning when I think he was 6. He was second at Grands at Nationals. He was placed on top 4 McVeigh Hunt a few times. He won a couple state titles. He was if you took him, it was so hard to leave him at home because he always had you right there where you needed to be. Mm-hmm. So he was an easy one. Soul Collector, which just passed away this past winter at 6 years old. So that was a tough one for us.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He had a motor like no other. I mean, he could jump a rabbit 10 yards or he could jump one at 600. He did not care, had no quit in him. He was a joy to turn loose. He was second in the world, second at Nationals. We could never get the big break with him to get one of those titles, but man, he had us so close so many times. Mm-hmm. Those two really stand out to me. And then old Holly, mm-hmm. the original one. She never was entered in a hunt. And she wasn't like I said, she wasn't super fast, but she would have did her fair share of winning. She never did anything wrong. She was a jump dog. And a lot of the style of the dogs that I run now are based off of what I enjoyed about her. I like a super tight mouth dog, but I like a jump dog. Mm-hmm. And, I like one to be as fast as they can be without being, swinging and being rough running. And Runner really fit that mold for me. Soul was a little bit edgier. I was willing to risk a little bit more. Mm-hmm. but Soul's a grand pup, Old Holly. So everything goes back there, and those are the ones that really stand out to me that we've owned. And now with Bear, he was a lot of runner, and he's actually a pup out of runner and a half brother to Soul. So it's fun to run him just with the history we have there with his relatives.
Well, I got to tell you, I was lucky enough to hunt with you a couple of times at the Eliminator earlier this year, and you know how it is. Sometimes you just end up drawing the same person multiple times. But I got to hunt with you and Bear twice, and man, I like that dog. I actually, when I came back, I was lucky to hunt with some really nice hounds up there. And when I came back south, people asked me, "Hey, did you see anything that caught your eye?" And certainly Bear was on my list. I just liked him. You talk about a handling dog. Man, he could be doing something. You just holler at him, and he'd just come right back to you. I mean, just a smart. He just seems like a really smart dog. I don't know, but
he's been fun to run. Now I appreciate you saying that about him. I've only had him since about the World Hunt last year, so last October. He was born at the house where Brandon Offit, my kennel partner, actually raised the litter, and then John Hurt bought him as a puppy. Mm-hmm. And I had one that Donovan Guy was running for us, and we really liked her. And she unfortunately got hit by a car out running one day out Tri Valley. Oh. So I was down in the dumps about her, but John did a great job there. He's 3 years old when I got him. He's still 3. He's about to turn 4, I think. But I started hunting him this winter, and my brothers love to gun hunt, but they're not much on the competition hunting. And but they had took a liking to him. When we went gun hunting, they wanted to take Bear. They called him Red. Mm-hmm. And he just got to be one of our favorites. And the more I ran him, the more he stood out to me. And he's made a pretty good run this spring. And I'm anxious to see what he can do here in the next couple of years.
Well, man, that's a heck of a list that you have of your own personal dogs that you like. And I know you've been out there competing for many years, but what are some of the best hounds you've seen that other people had that you competed against that really caught your eye?
Yeah, the ones that really stand out to me, Vicky Bass had a dog named Bone Collector. And I saw him do some things in the heat that most dogs would lay down on. And I always said Soul he took so much after his dad in so many ways. He just had that no quit in him. And the few times I ran with Bones, he's just a hard-hitting dog that would go to the end of the earth to find a rabbit. I really enjoyed watching him run. I don't think I actually drew him, but I spectated him a handful of times. And then Brian Meads had countless, but the ones I got to run with, Double D Dez, which I was fortunate enough to get a littermate to Dez when I think they were probably, when they were probably 4 years old, and that was Hide Holler Go Get 'Em Jim, and that's the one I was able to get to win the Tritonics Triple Crown. That's been probably 7-8 years ago now. But Double D Dez that Mead had was a great one. His Outback Ghetto Booty, who was she was out of, let's see here, she'd be a full sister to Mongo. She was a national champion. She was a lot like Bone, just hard hitting, go jump rabbits. And I never saw Dez or Booty look bad the times I ran with him. Mm-hmm. And then one that always stood out to me, Ryan Young had one called Young's Outback Daisy. And Daisy was littermate to Mead's Driller male dog that I ended up breeding to. And I watched her put on a performance one day at Nationals where, it was a cast of grands. Remember Bill McFarland being in the cast. And Bill knew what a dog was. Supposed to carry a dog and a beagle. Mm-hmm. And Daisy put on a clinic. I've never seen a dog dominate the cast like I saw her that day. Dogs were coming back quitting. Good dogs. You jump every rabbit, get every line, turn loose again. She'd be 300 yards with another one running before those dogs got out of sight. But that I always remember that performance I saw that day, and that was a big reason I took my Rosie female and bred the driller, and that's definitely a measuring stick still to this day.
Well, this is what I've started calling my Mount Rushmore question. But if you could put together your top 4 dogs that you've been across in your career, and these could be dead or alive, by the way, they don't have to be living now. But the top 4 dogs, if you wanted to see a powerhouse of a cast go out, what would those 4 dogs be for you?
Man, 4 is tough to come up with, but the dogs that have impacted me, some of these I may have ran with, but some of these I haven't ran with, but I've watched so many videos, I've talked to so many people, I've seen what their offspring did, and they just, when I'm wanting a dog, I think of these type of dogs. Matt Glomsky's Red Runner again, he would be on my Mount Rushmore. Mead's Hard Pumping Winnie, she was a national champion. She produced all the, Booty and Mongo, and, she's just one side. Brute was the other side of that, but I think of Winnie, and then I think of Bone Collector, Vicky Bassett's. So there's 3, and man, that 4th one, that's tough. Yes. I never got a hunt with Brute, but man, Brute has impacted UKC Hunting Beagles, Owen Dagstein's Brutus balls. I would love to have got to see him run, and I think him or Glomsky's Crimson Flame, who was Performance Pack World Champion, those 2 would battle for that 4th spot on my Mount Rushmore probably.
That's strong. That's a strong pack right there.
And there's so many we're leaving out that, I'm going to, after this call, I'm going to be kicking myself in the butt for not bringing up another one, I'm sure. But,
that's always got to be one of the toughest questions I ask. Because you're going to leave some out. You just are. There's so many good ones.
Just in every generation it changes, I've been fortunate enough to own a couple good ones, and but Mount Rushmore is always something that you didn't own. It seems like something that you always wanted. So,
well, this is a question that I think people will find interesting because you've already touched on it just a little bit, but you know what it takes to win at the highest level, and you've won. Not only have you won a world championship, you've finished a runner-up too. You finished 2nd. And could you tell us a little bit about what it takes to be successful at these high levels? What kind of commitment does it take, and the time leading up to major hunts? What does that look like for you? How often do you hunt? What does that look like?
My wife's, when she's listening to this in a few days or a couple of weeks, whenever it comes out, she's just going to shake her head. She's going to say too much, but no, I think consistency means so much, and I don't mean consistent as run a certain amount of times this week or next week. I mean consistent as in years, because you have to get breaks in the competition hound world, both Beagles, Coon Hounds, whatever you're doing. You have to be in enough cast and give your dog the right opportunity for you to get a breakthrough win. And then you have to be consistent on. When I was younger, I never put much thought into nutrition. Now, when I was playing football and things, that's we talked and did a lot on nutrition. But when it came to hounds, I thought you bought the bag that we've always fed them once a day. The cup that we always used, but I've switched a lot. Every dog is a little different. I'm a big believer in Purina, but that has got me through. All dogs need fed different. All dogs need treated different. I used to think I was always chasing the perfect dog, but we're never going to find it. Every dog has its strengths and weaknesses, and you have to prepare one depending on those strengths and weaknesses. But I'm a lot on. I like. There's two age groups of dogs I like. I like the up and comers, like 1 to 2 years old, and then I like those 5 to 7 year old dogs. And back to consistency, I like to run if I'm getting ready for a hunt. If I'm not hunting, 6-7 days a week, I don't feel like I'm giving them the right chance. Once I get them to a point where I'll have them running down like I like them, I'll still run, 3 to 5 days a week, depending on the dog. A lot of that time then will be solo or brace, depending on the dog. But I like a lot of solo time, and I like to go hunt somewhere where they got a good jumper rabbit. I love watching a dog drag a pack of dogs around with speed, but I would probably accept a slower dog than some people would if it's a jump dog. And when I say jump dog, I don't mean strike dog. I don't want one just to get open and have the first strike. I want a jump dog looking to jump a rabbit, not to find a track. And I think those natural jump dogs win you more and will win them big hunts, because you don't always have a big score. You don't always do a lot of scoring. But if your dog's the one jumping the rabbits, that doesn't mean that much to you. And especially as the rounds go on in a World Hunt or a Nationals or the Eliminator, if your dog can consistently jump rabbits, it is going to have a very good chance, to squeak out a few of those cast ones in a row.
Well, you said that we're all kind of chasing finding that perfect dog, and I kind of agree. I don't know that I've seen one yet either. But if you could if you could design the perfect dog for you, what would that beagle look like? What would they sound like? What would they hunt like? What if you could just make one? What would that look like for you?
I like them tight mouthed. Runner was good about, he was tight mouthed, but he jumped a lot of rabbits. So I like a super tight mouth dog. I like a squall. I don't like a big ball mouth, but I like a squall and a scream kind of mouth. I don't mind a chop mouth dog, but I don't like a ratchet mouth dog. In a check area, same thing when I say tight mouth on strike. I like the same thing in a check area. If a dog barks, I know he has it and he's leaving. And I like a dog that might get, pick up that check and he takes off before he might get open. I like one that explodes out of both the check or just the track in general. I don't need one to bark every time its foot hits the ground. I probably from growing up coon hunting, I like it if they put, 15, 20 yards in between barks. Hunt-wise, it seems like you always have either a grubby dog or a bird-style dog or a bird-style type hunting dog. I like kind of a combination. I like one that'll get in and dig, but in the competition hunt, you need one to range, because especially on that second and third rabbit, you jump in that cast, they're probably not going to jump it next to you in a brush pile. They're going to have to go find one.
Right.
And I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is having that combination style hunt. If Soul was one of the ones I liked that was like that. He could dig in a brush pile. If he knew a rat was in there, he'd dig and dig and dig in a brush pile. Not dig in the ground, but just in the brush and work it. But if you're hunting open woods, he'd fly around like a squirrel dog and jump for rabbit. And then size-wise, I like a little longer dog. I think that's where all the speed comes from, and endurance. I don't like a giant dog, but I don't like a little one either. 14-inch male dog, 14.5-inch male dog's fine by me. I actually prefer gun hunting and hunting females more, but just seems like a lot of times those male dogs are just a little bit more competitive, have a little bigger tank than some of them females. But that's what I think of when I'm looking for the next one.
That sounds good to me too. So let me ask you this. So you mentioned that you like a 5-6 year old dog, but you like that 1 and 2 year old dog too. What's up and coming? Do you have a youngster right now that maybe isn't quite ready for competition, but you got your eye on one?
Yeah, Brand kind of took a step away from the competition hunts right now. He has 4 youngsters right now, so he's staying busy with them. But he had a female he had started. It was out of Seoul, and a dog we call Hide Holler, talk dirty to me. We call her Dirty. He bred Soul and Dirty, had 2 pups, had a male dog. His little ones named him. One Orange Collector and one Pickles. Pickles is out in Missouri. The other ones is have him. And I was quick to claim Pickles when he said he was going to take a little step away. Mm-hmm. She is wired. She's wired 440. I mean, she's wound for sound. But she's a natural jump dog like Soul was. Mm-hmm. She's fun because she can range out there and jump one. But if you turn her loose in a pasture field and there's 2 clumps of brush, she hasn't even been hunted enough to know where rabbits are, but she just naturally wants to go dig in that brush pile. So she's exciting. She's a little trashy when she was younger, but we're starting to get that straightened out. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited for her. I see her being able to win, different types of casts. One outlaw score, one where you only jump on a rabbit. I'm excited about her. Then I got a couple young females. Little Jim, she's out of my old gym dog, which was Limerent to Dez, and I actually grandpupped to Runner. I'm really excited about her. She's a champion now with a few wins toward Grand. Mm-hmm. Trying to think what else I got at the house. Bear. He's about to turn 4 this fall, but I've only had him in the hunts for a year, so I can see me dragging him around for a few years and mm-hmm. seeing if we can't get lucky and get another big win. I was fortunate enough things fell in place to where, we had a good weekend at Nationals, but hopefully he can put another good weekend together mm-hmm. before his trial career is done.
It's always nice to have something on the bench. I had somebody tell me a long time ago, if you're going to play in the major leagues, you always need a minor league, because at some point you're going to need to pull them up from the minor league and start playing in the majors. So that sounds like you got a lot of good prospects.
100%. Some of them young promising dogs don't make what you think they're going to. So, mm-hmm. We go through some dogs, and, they don't all make. And there's some other young dogs I'm hunting right now that I don't mention. Maybe they end up better than some of these promising ones, but just time will tell.
Well, it sounds like you stay really busy. I don't know when you sleep based on everything you just told me that you that you do. But as you sit around, or if you do have a chance to sit around and think about things and about the past, if you could go back and change anything, would you? I mean, would you? Is there anything you'd change?
I wish. I don't know if I necessarily. I mean, I'm sure I can make a list of things I'd change looking back, but I wish. Maturity is the thing that comes with age in most cases. I always think now, I think some people might not realize they're struggling with this, but I think some people they get so high or so low on a dog. When a dog's doing good, it's the best dog in the world, you're going to win a world hunt. And that same dog could look like an idiot tomorrow, and, it's the worst dog ever.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the last few years, I understand that, dogs are going to be dogs. I've had bad games. They're going to have a bad cast. But to just understand what they are and what they're capable of doing, and that not every one of them is perfect, and they're dogs, they're not machines. I wish we could hook them up to a computer and make one like we want to, but we just ain't figured that out how to do that yet. But I'd say when I was younger, when I, lose a few casts in a row or had a dog looking bad, I'd probably, get down in the dumps and maybe move on from a younger one quicker than I should have. Mm-hmm. Or maybe I stuck with one way longer than I needed to. Mm-hmm. Maybe I saw just a few glimpses and I just kept clinging, thinking that they were, going to be it when I should have been spending my time on something else. I just think that outlook would have helped me a lot when I was younger.
I've got another change-related question, but this one has to do with rules.
Okay.
So you've been hunting in these competitions for quite some time. The rules change, and some
Mm-hmm.
changes we really like, some we maybe like the old rule the way it was. If you could go in right now with the current rules and either take one out or add one or maybe change one that's in there, or do you have anything on your mind as far as changing a rule or modifying a current rule?
Wow. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not rules. Maybe how some rules are enforced. I think one thing I enjoy about the coon hounds, and this is why some people don't enjoy the coon hounds, is not cutthroat, but just I like the strictness, how rules enforced. I like hunting with Bill McFarland because no matter who it was going to get enforced the same way. I think a lot of times now, I feel like the Beagle people, the Beagle world, are so close knit, which is great. We all have so many friends, but I think some people are slow to mind his dogs or give them a benefit of the doubt a little bit more than they should. Or, if a strike call is kind of close, they might split it. Or if one dog has the line by a head, they might split it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that stuff be cleaned up a little bit. If the dog's ahead in front, then Dale Earnhardt would have claimed the win.
Yes, he would.
I would like some of that stuff to be cleaned up a little bit. But other than that, when the rules have changed about plussing tracks when they were circled, not seen, I didn't know if I'd like that.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think all rules can be. If someone's looking to abuse the rules, they're going to find a way. But I think we've, over time, I think most of the rules have been an improvement. And I only hunt UKC, and a big testament to Alan and everybody there at UKC. I only hunt UKC for a reason. I think they're pretty consistent. They do a good job of putting on major events, and I enjoy them. So, and they're not chasing anything radical. They're trying to stay in the middle, and I appreciate what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good answer. So, if people are listening today, and maybe some of them have dabbled in competition hunts, maybe some of them have never even been to a competition hunt, but they have some good old gun dogs that they think they may want to go try this stuff out or see what it's all about. Do you have any advice to people considering competing in the hunts? I know we hadn't really talked about the shows much, but either hunt in the hunts and or the shows, and maybe is there anything that you wish somebody would have told you when you first started out in this stuff?
I was fortunate. I was hanging out at the Coon Club when I was, barely able to walk, so I kind of grew up around it. You can read the rule book, cover to cover, and it's going to help, but more than anything, it's experience, and it's the rule application is what people struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
I think you just gotta go to hunts. I think it's good if you have someone that are in the that are participating. But even if you don't, go spectate some casts, and then don't be afraid to enter one. I mean, if you lose, we're all going to lose. But I think it's an application thing. I think you have to be in the hunts to enjoy them, and they're as enjoyable as you want to make them. Some people give them a bad rap. Say you got a bad break or got cheated, but most of the time you just got to be willing to accept. You're not going to win every one of them, and just because you might have the best dog doesn't mean you're going to win either. So if you can handle, not winning every cast and just want to go enjoy, see good dog work, I don't enjoy much. I don't enjoy, there's very few things I enjoy more than the competition hunts.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like good advice. Is there, as we kind of finish up, because I do want to pivot just a little bit, and I want to ask you about your coon hounds too, but as we finish up, maybe talking about the beagle part, is there anything I didn't ask you about beagling or your beagles that I should have asked you? Anything you want to talk about that I didn't bring up, or do you have anything to promote? Do you have litter puppies coming up? Do you offer your hounds at stud? Any of that?
We covered a lot of it. We do raise some litters of pups, and there are quite a few guys that come and breed females, both the Plott Hounds and the Beagles. Runner's starting to get up there in age a little bit. I think he's 9 or 10 probably. I just had him collected again. He has great numbers, and he has some dogs that's doing some winning. Dogs that suit me. I don't know if they suit everyone, but they suit me quite a bit. So I know when Soul passed away there this winter, I don't know how many phone calls I got about what semen we had saved on him, or man, I wish I would have read to him. And I've always been that person to where if there was a dog I really liked, and even though he might be 6 or 8 hours away, if I wanted to breed to him, I just pick up and go, because you never know when when you're not going to get that chance. So whether that be Runner or even Owen with Mongo, there's a world champion that's still alive and a dog that did a lot of winning. If there's people out there wanting to breed to a certain dog or got big plans, don't wait too long, because those dogs get old quick, real quick.
Well, Jacob, for people that may be interested in contacting you about upcoming litters or stud services, how do they find you?
Facebook's probably the best.
Okay.
My personal Facebook, or we have a Hide Holler Beagle page. I don't post near as much on there as I should. Between the Redwood Plott Hounds page, that's where I put a lot of my Facebook time at. But reach out on Facebook, and I can get you my phone number through that. And if you need something, we can hook you right up.
Perfect. All right. Well, you mentioned that the official state dog of North Carolina, which is where I live, is the Plott Hound. And so you have Redwood Plott Hounds. So let's talk a little bit about coon dogs before we wrap up. So could you tell us a little bit about your history with Plott Hounds? And it's my impression that they've been around a while. Maybe this is coming through several generations, but could you tell us a little bit about the history of your Redwood Plott Hounds?
Yeah, so my great uncle, my dad's mother's brother, Fred Cavey. He had some gray dogs and some trade dogs. He had a little bit of everything, but he settled on Plott dogs, and he got some registered Plott dogs, and it's been over 65 years now, I believe. And he bred, and he had some competition dogs. He enjoyed the competition shows. And then when my dad was, middle school, he started hunting with them. Then got in high school and into his 20s. They kind of went from just coon dogs to real competition dogs. And now there's a pretty big team of us. Dad was good with getting everybody involved, and we have people from Ontario to South Carolina to Washington, state of Washington, Indiana, Illinois, West Virginia, Virginia. It's one big family, and we swap dogs back and forth. If I own a dog, so does everyone else. I mean, it's a team effort. Redwood it's a family now. I mean, at my wedding, I think there's more Redwood people there than there was anyone else. So it's been just part of our life, it seems like now.
Well, so I'm going to steal a few questions from the Beagle side and just kind of re-ask them with the Plotts. But what are some of the best Plott Hounds that you've had?
So in years past, the ones that kind of put us on the map were Blowers Redwood Okie. He's still the number one historical reproducer in UKC in Plott history. He was dominant in the hunts, but he was even a more dominant reproducer. Dad campaigned him hard, and then just slightly before Okie was Blowers Redwood Josie. Josie, I think, placed 13th of the world. I don't know what year that was. Might have been like 01 or 2000, somewhere around there, maybe 99. But she was hard to handle. She was a lot to handle in the hunt. She was a first type of dog, endless tank, an open trailer. Okie was one that snuck around and would treat him all coon around you, and he could go in there deep and get one, but he was going to be by himself and he was going to have his coon. So two very different style of dogs, but they complement each other very well. And a lot of everything goes back to Okie now, and even the dogs that we're not owning or hunting. If there's a Plott dog that wins, it's pretty likely that Okie's going to be back in that pedigree somewhere. And what helped Okie's numbers was people willing to breed quality females to them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't thank those people enough. But Okie and Josie were bred. I think that crossed me 3 or 4 times, and produced some really good dogs. And those pups out of that cross has produced even more good ones. And Josie was the number 1 historical reproducer for years. And on UKC's reproducers list, when that dog, they're dead and gone, but when they turn 25, they fall off that list. And she actually just fell off that list, but her grandpup, a female, just took her spot. So that's kind of neat, kind of fun to watch. And then as of the last, 5 or 10 years, Lyndall Perry in Buckhannon, West Virginia, had a female solo redwood singer. She was a dual grand before she was 2. She was a special dog. Hunting some pups out of her now, Rocket Boy and a couple others. Then you got Little Hokey. She's a grandpup of Old Okie. He won Isaiah Kid, National Grand Champion Plott, high scoring Plott World. Those are kind of more of the recent ones.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, now we're hunting pups out of Singer and Hokey. But like I said, you see a lot of the similarities now that Dad was hunting 30 years ago. And we do a lot of line breeding, and we don't do many outcrosses. But it's fun to, Dad can pull up a pedigree that goes back as far as you could imagine. And Dad's probably hunted with or owned the majority of those dogs, and he just needs to see that history, that heritage.
I bet that is something. I really do. I bet that is something. So, current day and what you're competing with now, and it's just amazing to me that this line's been going on for so long. It's been in your family for so long, and even with you mentioned, I think you said that you went to one of your first competition hunts in 4th grade or something, and you were hooked after that. So, what are some of your favorite current dogs that you compete with?
So, the Little Hokey dog I won Plott days with, it's been 2 years this June, I believe, or July. I'm hunting a pup out of him now, owned by Zach Savage in Maryland. He is just a natural coon treater. When he was 8 months old, I went to hunt with Zach and actually try another dog out. And I said, "You gonna bring that pup with you?" He said, "Yeah, I can bring him if you want." Well, that little puppy put it all over us all night long. Split treed twice, treed in front of him one other time, and this was a cold December night in the mountains of Maryland. And I tried my hardest to get that dog bought before I left that driveway. And he sneaks around, trees coon by himself a lot, and I kept bugging him to come back up, and or kept bugging him to sell him, but I was happy that he was enjoying them, and I knew he would campaign them, so I wasn't too worried about it. And as luck would have it, Zach thankfully called and said, "Hey, if you'll campaign this thing for me, I need someone to hunt him in the hunts like he needs to. I'll give you half of them."
Wow.
And I told Zach, I said, "You don't need to give me half of them, but I'd be happy to campaign them." And he sent them up, and man, I think, probably 12 or 13 weeks, he was a grand knight. He qualified for the world, won a cast the world zones. He had me at a hunt every weekend, it seemed like, and he's one of them dogs. He just couldn't wait for it to get dark, and he just turned 2, so he's back at the house. Zach put a whole nother coon season on him this year. He's back at the house, getting tuned up for some of the big hunts. And then Jeremy Ferguson has a female named Sassafras. She just turned 2. I put her in probably 10 casts or so, and I think she's night champion with 2 or 3 wins, 4 grand. So those are the 2 I'm really hunting hard at the house now. Got some young pups I'm hunting too, but Little Perry has a dog named Rocket Boy who's out of Singer. And maybe he won't pan out, but in my mind, he's the one I'm thinking is going to be the next big one. He has the mouth, he has a style, he's bred the way we like him to be bred, and we're excited about him. So we'll see where it takes us the next couple of years.
Well, as you've been out there hunting in these competition hunts, What are some of the best hounds you've competed against? And they don't have to be Plotts, and they might not be because Plotts are just a minority. Anytime you roll up to one of these hunts, unless it's Plott days maybe, but you roll up to
Mm,
these hunts. What are some of the best dogs that left you with a positive impression?
that is a tough question. Coon dogs, it's so tough because there's so many different styles out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I like one that's dominant. We always kind of joke around and say winners win. Doesn't matter how they do it. But I always liked following the Mr. Clean dog, Walker dog. He seemed like when he won dominantly. I think he won the World Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I think he won Autumn Oaks twice. But I liked following him. But the Okie dog, my dad's, just because I probably hunted with him more than anything else I ever hunted with,
Mm-hmm.
he was pretty quiet on the ground, but man, you knew he was going to fall tree. Seemed like you always knew he was about to get treed. He was a lot of fun to hunt with.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of some dogs that I've drawn the last couple of years that have really looked good. I've drawn some, but I don't know their names. Those would be the two that comes to mind right off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, certainly the Clean. If you in the Coon Hounds at all, and you hadn't just been totally asleep, you're gonna know who Clean is.
Yeah.
That's.
I remember reading the bloodlines. I don't know how many. It's not a whole long time ago, but I remember when I was still in school reading the magazines, and I like reading about Clean.
Well, this is kind of a question similar to the Beagle question, but if you were to describe a Plott Hound out of Redwood, the Redwood Plott Hounds, what are they like? I mean, how do they hunt? What do they look like? What color are they? Could you tell us just a little bit if somebody's getting a puppy out of your kennel, what could they expect?
So the appearance has changed a little bit over time, but my dad's always said this, and I agree with it. We're trying to get that. We're never going to get perfect. We want to get as close to perfect and then clone them. We want them to look alike. In Devin Dixon, he's in North Carolina. I'm not exactly sure where in North Carolina. He always says the Plott days. He goes, when you walk by the redwood tent, because they all look alike. They're a black brindle. They are brindle. A medium ear. We like a good-looking dog. That's not the only thing we're selecting for, but, we like a good head, good tight feet. But a black brindle dog, he used to be, when my great-uncle was still around and when Dad was younger, you look at some of the older pictures I was sharing some today, they had that big white chest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've got to let all that white. You might see there's some indicators that kind of causes us to pick pups now. We like about a 50 cent on their chest of white. We like just the frosting on some of the toes. You have to look real close to see. But I think the redwood dogs are known, just from hearing others talk about them when I was younger and talking to people on the phone now. Some Plott dogs aren't known to be great tree dogs. I think that's a strong trait in the redwood dogs. Up on the tree, stretch out style tree dogs. Open trailers, but not automatic strike dogs, not mouthy type dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems as time goes on, Okie was pretty quiet on the ground, just open here and there. You see that trait come out more and more, and naturally independent. I think that's what we take the most pride in. We don't make a dog independent. We're not. If a dog comes in and backs a dog, super late, we might get after him a little bit. But we, I don't mind right out of the truck if it gets a piece of another dog's tree. But I like him to be naturally independent and not just backpacking all night long.
Mm-hmm.
But between the appearance of a slick-haired, dark black brindle dog with a good tree instinct, good tree dogs, and they're naturally independent. That's how I would describe what our dogs are, what we hope every pup turns into anyway. Of course, they all don't make. But.
Mm-hmm. Well, if someone was considering getting into coon hunting, whether it be just pleasure hunting or competition hunting, why should they consider a Plott Hound over other breeds?
Man, there's so many ways to answer that. I'm not saying they are the best option depending on what you're wanting or what you enjoy. One thing I like about a Plott dog is they seem to be pretty well rounded. They're gritty, and I don't mean gritty as in bear hunters was they say gritty. They kind of mean pulling hair, a little rough. Gritty, I mean you can hunt them hard. They can take a lot, and they're good about having their game, whether it be bear, coon, bobcat. They're usually pretty honest. Now I've been around some Plott dogs that would tree slick, but I think as a generality, they're pretty good about having their game, and they're so versatile. Seem to have big noses. I think maybe that was been bred into them because they're used on large game so much, back in the day. And still, Little still bear hunts the same dogs we're coon hunting. And a lot of guys are buying pups or breeding females. They're using them on mountain lions, bobcats, bear. And just the versatility of them, I think is a huge bonus and why a lot of people enjoy the Plott dog.
I like them. I even though they're the Plott Hound is the official dog here, the state dog in North Carolina. Haven't hunted with a whole lot of them, but the ones that I hunted with, I really liked. I just really did, and I always grew up. My favorite dog were red bones, and I know you can't see me, but I just smiled and kind of laughed when you were talking about the white on their chest and toes. But I had an old timer tell me a long time ago, Sam, if you ever breed the white out of that red bone, you'll breed the coon dog out of him.
I've always heard the same thing about cows. When they bred the horns out of the cows, they bred something else out of them too. Mm-hmm. And we still like seeing a little bit of creme come out. And I think a Plott dog should have a little bit of white on his chest and a tick on his feet. But we get some come out that don't have much white, if any white at all. But it's funny looking back at the old pictures. There's that always had and Freddie always had a yellow brindle or a red brindle female. And we still try to keep one or two of them in the kennel, just to keep us from getting too dark. We don't want to be solid black. And, some of Dad's favorite dogs, old Roxy and Sally, they were way before my time, but they were that red brindle. And it's funny when a young dog's coming on or when he's really liking one, he likes to bring up Roxy. So, man, she reminds me a lot of Roxy. And back, they were red brindle, brown brindle, and I've had a few good ones that were lighter too. I just think a black brindle Plott's pretty sharp to look at.
Yes, they are. Well, I'm going to ask you a as we wrap up. I just have maybe one or two more questions, and one is about change, but it's a little different this time. So, how has coon hunting changed for you from the fourth grade till now? I know in a lot of the country and where I live, there's been a lot of what I'd call probably urban sprawl. The cities are just kind of moving out to the suburbs, and the suburbs are moving out in the country. And it's just losing places to hunt. It's more challenging to find hunting spots. Probably the biggest thing here. But what does it look like out there? Has it changed a lot? What are some of the challenges you might have?
It has changed. Luckily, about the time that, people were losing hunting spots is, when the Garmin came out. So it allows you to have a little better control, which means a lot. People talk about dogs are harder going or, wire hunters back in the day, but I don't really necessarily think that's the case. I think, we don't have a lot of, depending on where you're at, you can't let them dogs hunt that wide, or where they're at before they get too far so you can head them off. But we like a dog that goes deep because down here, we can go an hour and being good coon hunting, good coon population, but here we don't have an abundance of coon, so you got to go hunting here. I'm fortunate to where my dad's farm is and where I grew up, and there's a lot of small farms around us that I'm able to hunt quite a bit of private ground that, that is still pretty untouched, which I'm very fortunate and thankful that I can. But the dog styles have changed. I mean, people want a dead loner, which, like I said, I like when it's independent also, but, they want one to only be deep and alone.
Yeah, that definitely changed for us.
The hide hunting's a thing of the past. That's another thing that's probably really changed since I remember being younger and watching Dad and his friends skin coon, and you don't see anybody skin a coon anymore.
Well, as we wrap up, kind of the same question as before. If someone was interested in getting into coon hunting, do you have any advice for them? One of the things that doing both that I've kind of seen, it seems like every little beagle puppy I've ever had would run a rabbit. I mean, really. It just seems like they just all can run one. Now, to varying degrees, some of them are a lot better than others. I didn't have that kind of luck sometimes with my coon hounds. I thought it was a lot harder to train them. It took a lot longer on the most part. I mean, I was lucky enough to have a couple of those really freakishly gifted natural puppies that were doing crazy stuff before they were a year old. But most of them weren't. So what kind of expectations would you share with someone interested in getting into coon dogs?
I do think it's more challenging. If you're running beagles, we all know, I mean, if you want to go run a beagle for 30 minutes behind the house, you can do it and get it caught and go home. Or if something pops up and you need to leave, you can hit the tone button or give them a holler and you can be back home in just a minute. Where coon hunting's a lot, it's a lot more of an ask. It's more of a commitment. I mean, when you leave the house at dark, we all think we're going to go for a drop or two and be home. But if they get up over the next ridge and you got to walk, you might get in at daylight. It just kind of depends. So it's more demanding in that sense. And I think also training pups. I mean, every stud promoter out there, is promoting natural starting pups and this and that, but just the same with the beagles. They don't all make, but they don't just have to run a track. They also have to get treed, and they got to have their coon when they do get treed. So there's a lot more that goes in it. I think if you're gonna be a coon hunter, you got to really enjoy coon hunting. A lot of people think they just want to go win hunts, but if you don't enjoy treeing coon and walking to a dog treed, competition hunts aren't for you either. People always ask me, what do I like more, running beagles or coon hunting? And man, I like both an awful lot. And I've been pretty fortunate with the beagles, but there's nothing like walking to a dog treed in my mind. When a dog comes treed, I don't know, it's a feeling that I don't get running beagles. So I'll be stuck doing both probably for as long as I can. But I think somebody new was getting into coon hunting, get with a hunter and go hunting. Maybe not a competition hunter per se, just someone that likes to go out and trees coon, laid back. And if you enjoy it, especially in the fall when the weather's nice, and then get a puppy from a reputable person or breeder and try your hand, but don't be discouraged if it don't make, because there's a lot that goes into it. And I've been on a cool streak where a couple pups didn't make, but you might get lucky and have the first two pups you ever have be the best ones you ever own. I've seen that happen plenty of times.
Well, Jacob, I can't thank you enough for your time. We could keep talking for a couple hours, I think, about coon hounds. I'm with you. I'm in that camp of I love my beagles, and the reason I kind of switched over was age as much as anything. It's just a lot easier. I'm going to just tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And but there is nothing like hearing a big old ball mouth hound beating down the holler on a January night when it's freezing outside. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's just fantastic. But is there anything that I didn't ask you about your Plott Hounds that I should ask you about? Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
If anything, just like to thank all the Redwood guys that are putting all the work and the time in right now. I mean, I could list them forever, but there's so many of us that are working toward the same goal, and I think that means so much in the competition world. You got to have a good breeding program to be successful in the hunts. It takes a lot of guys to have the same goal and to be working toward it. So we're fortunate enough to have a lot of good friends that have the same desires we do. So I'm thankful for all those guys.
Again, if you had someone that's interested in reaching out to you looking for pups or started dogs or stud opportunities with your Plotts, how would they find you?
Redwood Plott Hounds on Facebook. We do try to post on there quite a bit. Like I said, as many of us that are hunting, there's always a new video or picture going up. We don't raise pups just to sell them. We raise litter pups when we need a pup or when there's a cross that we think is promising. So, I get a lot of requests asking for, to buy a young starter dog. We normally only sell weanling pups, and those are just the ones that, we have a big litter and can't keep them all. But there are quite a few guys that come and breed females, and I got a couple dogs to aunt studs. So if you are interested, they can look us up on there, and we can get hooked up on the phone and see what they're looking for.
Fantastic. Jacob, thank you so much for spending a little time with us.
No problem. I appreciate you taking the time and having me on. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough. And remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com.